depends where I am. I can get fairly violent.
You get, oh, well, we'll have to work on that too then. All right, so go and look through there and check off. Oh, do you have pens? Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
Brian, you're prepared. I'm not. I appreciate that.
I'm a teacher.
That explains why I never got a teaching job. I'm not prepared.
Depends if it's like, if you get a lot of people, then yeah.
Do what?
Then,
A pity party just means like when you sulk, basically.
oh.
Like when you feel sorry for yourself, you're throwing yourself a pity party.
I thought it meant you get a bunch of people have a party.
No, it's not that you get a bunch of people and feel. It's basically you go off and sulk by yourself, and you're throwing yourself a pity party. I personally like a good pity party, personally. Did y'all ever call a friend or pray?
No.
No?
Call a friend.
Sometimes I pray, but I never call a friend.
Okay. I don't call a friend either. I try to pray, and that should be our fallback. That should be like our first thing we always do is when we have difficult times, we go to the Lord and pray. I mean, think about Jesus right before he's about to be crucified. What does he do? He spends God himself, the night before he's about to be crucified, spends the entire night praying. And that should be our thing. Whenever we go through difficult times, that should be our first thing is to go to the Lord in prayer. Avoid thinking about it. Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I do that sometimes
Depends
too.
on
It's
what
better
it is.
out of sight, out of
It's a
mind.
little difficult.
Yeah.
It is. It is. All right. So what differences does it make to know someone sees your pain and genuinely cares when you're hurting?
I don't really see a difference.
Like if you know, like if you're going through something really bad, of course you don't necessarily go talk to somebody. But a lot of people, when they're going through something bad, they want to go talk to somebody. So knowing somebody out there knows what you're going through sometimes helps people, doesn't you? No?
Not really.
I would keep stuff to myself.
Okay. And I can definitely agree with that. I'm somebody that doesn't necessarily go, oh, I got a lot of problems. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
That's not me, but a lot of people are like that. All right, so the Israelites cry out to God, and he hears them. So why do you think it's smart to cry out to God about your struggles?
Because he cares and he can help.
Okay, that is true. A little bit of a Sunday school answer, but yes.
Yeah.
All right, what, Eileen?
Well, no, I forgot what I was going to say now. Because it's essentially the same idea as what Krista had.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
In different words, kind of.
yeah.
Okay.
But I can't say except about it.
Okay. Well, that's the thing is we talked a little bit about that Sunday too. Is our God's greater than any of the bad things we're going through? So it would, like, why not go to Him? That should be who we always turn to. I mean, like I talked about with Peter when he was walking on the water, he was walking on the water, which nobody had ever done in the history of mankind. And instead of focusing on something crazy like that happening, he was focusing on the wind and the waves, which happen every day. In our own lives, we get caught up in the little things that are just normal and ordinary, and then you have God who is all-powerful, and yet we focus on the little things more than God. And so that's the thing, is He can deliver us from all these bad things. We need to make sure that we're turning to Him then. All right, do you think God really cares about you? I
Yes.
hope we get this answer correct. Okay, good.
Did you say no?
I said yeah.
She said yes.
Okay.
She said yes.
I
Okay.
heard no. I was like, what?
All right, in the space below, list some ways that you see His care and concern for you. All right, so kind of sit there and think about that for a minute. What are some ways we know that God cares about us?
You may see it in a dream.
Okay, that's true.
Or God will use other people around you to help you feel better.
Okay. All right, think about it. Write some of it down too. That way, when y'all go back, y'all can look and see some of the things y'all talked about in previous weeks. So what are some things He's done that we can see that He cares?
Well, He died.
That's a very good one. That's the one I was shooting for. That's good. Yeah, exactly. I mean, He came, not only did He die, He first gave up His throne in heaven to come to earth and be like us. Which, it'd be like us giving up being human and becoming like a little amoeba or a rat or something like that. So He gave up His majesty and His glory in heaven to come be on earth, then to die for us. That's the most powerful example of His love and how much He cares for us. All right, so anything else? Okay. All right, let's then go ahead and all right, so anyways, God cared about him. Now He's about to make His move. He's going to deliver him. So go ahead and turn to page 17. And actually, Brian, if you want to go to the next slide too. So what does God do? What specifically does He do to make Pharaoh want to send out the...
Killed his firstborn son and plagues and all that.
Oh yeah, the plagues, and that's is that Charleston Heston?
Yeah.
Okay, have y'all ever seen the original Ten Commandments?
Nope.
No.
No. Okay.
When I typed in Moses, that's all that
I
came
was,
up.
I was looking at getting a clip. I was gonna get a clip, and it was gonna be Charleston Heston's movie. Every Easter, the Saturday before Easter, they show the Ten Commandments movie. It's like 6 hours long,
Oh.
and it's literally it's literally all of the book of Exodus basically.
Whoa.
Couldn't do it.
I
It's
couldn't do
actually-
it.
It's actually
Can't
pretty
sit
good.
that long.
Now it's like older movies sometimes are where they're very exaggerated and overacting and that kind of stuff. So it can be a little corny, but it's still pretty good. So anyways, that's him playing Moses.
Sit still for that long.
Do what?
I couldn't sit still for long.
It takes a
I ended
while.
up texting for like 2 hours in the movie and be like, wait, what's going
Oh
on?
no, I hate texting. I couldn't do that.
Alright, well anyways, but that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna do the 10 plagues. Alright, y'all remember what some of the plagues were?
Water.
Frogs.
Do you have that?
Yeah, hang
The
on.
waterfalls.
The water
Waterfall.
turned into
Oh,
blood.
okay.
She
Water-
said falls or something right when I said
Oh, okay,
that.
I just heard water.
Frogs.
She
I
said
just,
frogs.
okay, I heard waterfalls.
Waterfalls.
Yeah, the water turns into blood. That's the first one. Then you're gonna get, I believe, what is it? Lice next, or is it frogs? Frogs is next. Frogs is next. Then flies, I believe. Lice, then flies.
Lice?
Then you get livestock disease. Disease of livestock. Boils. And y'all know what boils are?
Yes.
Okay, it's kind of like zits on steroid, except it really, really hurts. Basically, that's what boils are. Not fun at all. All right. Hail, which that's like if you've heard like Sodom and Gomorrah, the hail and brimstone. It's actually fire coming down with the hail too. So it's like destroy. It's not just regular hail. It's actually like
Oh.
catching things on fire and destroying things.
The hell's basically on fire.
Yes, basically. Which you should see the special effects in the Ten Commandments movie. It's pretty
It's really corny.
It's really bad. I mean, it was probably what the '60s when they did it.
Like it's bad as Flash Gordon?
Earlier than that, I think 50s.
'50s.
Oh,
What is it?
it's
What'd you say?
worse. It's worse than
Whoa.
Flash
What's
Gordon.
Flash? Like a movie? Flash
It's an
Gordon?
80s movie that my
Oh,
mom made
okay.
me watch.
Yeah, these like no special effects at all. That's why I was gonna show you a clip, but it's pretty bad. All right. So anyways, yeah, it's actually got fire in it though. All right. What's the age one?
Right. 56.
Yeah, 56. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So it's in color, but it's not much above
Oh.
color.
That's good. Color.
All right, so you have locusts, which that's basically grasshoppers, basically. So after you had the disease of livestock, which is killing off all the animals and stuff, now they're losing their crops too. So this is having a really, really bad effect on
But the
what's going
frogs
on.
are getting pretty big for eating on the
So they're
locusts,
eating-
too.
They're eating the frogs now? Okay.
No, the frogs are eating the locusts.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Why would
Well,
the
but the frogs are already
locusts
gone.
I know!
Do what?
You were saying they were eating the frog, and I'm like, no,
I got you.
yeah.
Well, you can eat frogs. Oh, y'all seen Duck Dynasty? They eat
No, I
frogs.
haven't.
No.
I've only seen like 2 minutes of it and hated it.
Yeah.
Oh, my
It's so
goodness.
boring.
That breaks my heart.
I like action.
That breaks my
and
heart. They're so good. Okay.
It's so cool.
That disappoints me. We can't be friends now.
Oh, well.
Alright, Brian, what's the last one? Or
Uh,
darkness. That's where there's just darkness on the land for 3 days.
That would
Okay.
be so bad.
And what's the 10th one? You already said it.
Same thing. Death.
Death is the 10th one?
Death Angel.
Death, exactly. When they come over and they're killing all the
Question
firstborn.
marks?
I was going to ask you what the 10th one was. I was quizzing you. Alright, so exactly. It's the death of the firstborn. And it's not just the people even. It's the death, what little of the livestock that's still alive. Because obviously a lot of them have died. Now it's the firstborn of all the livestock too. Okay. So what do they do? What do the Israelites do? The Hebrews.
Lamb, blood over the door.
Blood,
thing.
lamb, door, yes.
Blood,
They
lamb,
sacrifice the firstborn lamb, their best lamb, and they sacrifice that, and they take the blood and they sprinkle it on the doorpost and up on the top.
Well,
Okay.
didn't the lamb have to be a year old?
Yeah, there were specific requirements. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not like just the most recent one born, but typically when it even talks about the Bible where it says the firstborn, a lot of times it's talking about the best, and the point is that it's perfect, it's without blemish. Which that's a picture, which most of the things going on in the Old Testament is a picture of Christ, the perfect Lamb, okay? And that's what we're seeing here when the death angel and stuff come over, and when they look down, instead of seeing the sin, because even the Israelites had sin too, instead of seeing that though, all they see is the blood of the Lamb that they sacrifice. And that's the same thing in our lives. That's a picture of what's going on in our lives. When God looks at us, He doesn't, when we become a Christian, He doesn't view the sin in our lives. Because when we're Christians, we have sin just like everybody else. Hopefully we're sinning less than before we were Christian, but we still have sin. But when God looks at us, He doesn't see that sin. He sees the blood of Christ. And that's the same thing going on here. They see the blood of the Lamb and not everything else, okay? And so that's what happens, and then everybody dies. All right, so this is God talking to them. He says, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike at the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the house where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt." So he's giving them an opportunity to where they're not going to be punished also. All right, go to the next scripture too, Brian.
The 29 through 30,
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh, okay, is it?
Yep.
Okay, did we already do the other one too?
Which other one?
The 12 and 13?
Yeah, that was 12 and 13 you just did.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Well,
Alright, you switched it so quick I got confused. Okay. And it came to pass. So basically that's God saying what he's going to do, and this is going to be him actually doing it now. And it came to pass at midnight that the Lord struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon. So everybody's affected, including Pharaoh himself. Which in Egypt, Pharaoh was viewed as basically a god. He was viewed as a god himself. So this is kind of breaking down that thought. Because that's the thing, is God is trying to show himself glorified over everybody else. So he's glorifying himself over the supposed God of Pharaoh. And all the firstborn of the livestock. So Pharaoh rose in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. So all the people of Egypt obviously are not put in the blood, so they're going to be affected by this. All right, so go and look at page 17. Why do you think Pharaoh kept hardening his heart toward Moses even after the first several plagues?
He felt threatened.
Felt threatened?
Yeah, because he felt threatened by God because he thought he would lose his people. And
Okay, but if God's more powerful, then why do you keep opposing him?
Because he doesn't want to admit there's someone more powerful than he is.
Okay, that's very true. And that's sometimes in our life. Sometimes we don't want to, even though we know God is more powerful, and we want to know what he's wanting us to do, but we decide we want to do what we want to do, and we just kind of try to pretend he's really not more powerful. Y'all do that sometimes?
kind of stick them in the closet.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we say is stick him in the closet or put him up on a shelf where when I need him, I'll go get him down, but until I need him, I'm just going to leave him up there. But that's not how the Christian faith, that's not how our Christian walk's supposed to be. But sometimes we do that way, way too much. All right, so why is it so difficult for a hard heart to change?
Because it's not our nature.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because we've been doing it for so long, we don't want to go out of our way just to please someone else.
Okay, yeah, I agree with
Because
that.
we're selfish, horrible people.
I can agree with that one.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, we are. Not to like say, oh, you're terrible people, but when you compare yourself to God and how perfect he is, we are that. I mean, I don't know about y'all, I feel like I'm sometimes one of the most selfish people there could be. Like, I try not to be, but I just feel like I'm so selfish sometimes because it's all about me. But that's how we're geared, that's how we're wired. We want it to be about us. Alright, so the 10th plague involved the death of every newborn. We've kind of already talked about that. And basically this sets up a ritual or a celebration that they're going to hold from now on every year. And that's when Jesus is crucified. It's on the Passover. Okay? So that's again another one of those kind of pictures of what's going on. And that's God. He's telling them to leave. Because now Pharaoh has repented. He's finally like, okay, go ahead and go out. You can leave. Alright, so Brian, go ahead and go to the next verses.
14, 5 through 6.
Yeah. And before we kind of talk about that, how are some ways in which we harden our hearts? So,
When parents say clean your room, you kind of refuse.
what?
When parents tell us to clean our room.
Oh, so that hardens your heart when your parents tell you to do that?
Oh, to quit playing the video games and clean?
And not.
So getting told to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, being bossed around.
Okay, that's true. That goes back to what we're talking about is we want to do what we want to do, not what somebody else wants us to do. Alright, Chris, do you have anything?
Not really. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Now, have you ever thought about this, though? When you're being stubborn and you're hardening your heart, have you ever noticed that sometimes you miss out on some things? Like, for instance, like if you have something like, You have a friend tell you something about this new book series or this new movie or this new video game, and you say, no, I don't want to, that's stupid. And then even though you realize eventually that it probably is a good thing, you don't want to admit it. And so you refuse to go do that, even though you know it's good.
And then you go do it in secret.
Okay, or then sometimes you actually finally do it
I'm just
though.
confused.
Have you ever had something like that though?
Yes.
Okay. But if you notice though, you're missing out on something. Now eventually you may break down and finally do it, but for a while you're missing out on something good just because you're so stubborn. That's the same thing with God. God's always trying to speak to us, but sometimes our heart becomes so hardened that we miss something He may be trying to tell us. So do you ever feel like maybe there's something He's been speaking to you that possibly you missed because you weren't listening? Maybe. And that's the thing is, sometimes people are like, I don't feel like God's speaking to me. So the question you'd ask yourself, are you listening? Maybe today, like that day you wake up and you don't really worry about God and you keep Him up on the shelf, like we were talking about, Chris, and you keep Him on the shelf. What if that was the day that God was going to speak to you? But you put Him up on the shelf, so you missed it. So it's important that we're always making sure we're, like I said, keeping Him in focus because, and making sure our heart's not hardened because you never know when God's going to be speaking to us. Okay? Alright, so let's look at these next verses. This is after they've got out of Egypt, okay? They've got out of Egypt, the 10th plague. Now, what happens next? Y'all know?
They were complaining.
They complain? Why do they complain?
Because they didn't have enough food.
That's later. Eventually they complain about that.
Oh.
What's like the next big thing He does?
Part the
Parts
water.
of water.
Parts the Red Sea, exactly. Alright, so that's what's about to be happening. But what happens initially is Pharaoh says, okay, you can go. And then his heart gets hardened again.
He's like, no.
And then, you know what? No, I'm going to go get you. So that's what's about to happen. Now it was told that the king of Egypt that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people, and they said, why have we done this? That we have let Israel go from serving us. So he made ready his chariots and took his people with him. So basically they're looking around like, okay, now who's going to do all the hard work? Now that the Israelites are gone, who's going to do all this? Yeah, we shouldn't have done that. Yeah, they're like, wait a minute.
The androids.
Let's rethink this. So that's what they decide is, hey, let's go catch them again. Alright, so that's what they're going to do. They're going to go chase them down. Alright, what's the next verse? And so this is what's happened. They've coming at them. So now the Israelites are afraid and they're complaining. Just after God's done all these great things, performed all these miracles, and the first thing they start doing is they start complaining. Okay? And Moses said to the people, do not be afraid, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Alright. So, let's look at page 18 then.
You want verse 21?
Yeah, go and put that up too. Alright, then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So there, and not only does He part the Red Sea, He also dries up the land, because otherwise they'd be walking in mud and muck and all that nasty stuff. Alright, then do 26 too also real quick.
Oh,
You seem like walking and then the whale comes by you.
verse 26 through.
A whale comes by?
Oh, I want to see the whale.
That way.
Verse 26 through what?
Just 26.
Okay.
Is it not on there?
They probably saw
Okay.
like some things they never discovered
Now it is.
before.
That's the great thing about this program.
It is good. I like that. Alright, and this is verse 26. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, on their chariots, and on the horsemen. So after all that, they get off scot-free. They're going, and then the Egyptians are in the middle, and the water comes crashing down. Which this was apart from the Ten Commandments I was going to play, because it's the special effect of the water being parted is pretty silly, so you probably enjoyed that.
Actually, for 1956 technology.
Yes, oh yes, it was like state of the art back then. Like people were like going to just watch these amazing things on the moving pictures. Like if y'all seen the original Star Wars, y'all may think that
No.
special effects is corny now. Back
I did
then,
not
like
see it.
that, you've never seen it?
I want to see that.
The original, really?
I like the original.
You're breaking my heart again.
Well,
No
I'm
Duck
sorry.
Dynasty or Star Wars.
Here's what we do for like the next movie night. We're watching
Oh,
the
no.
original Star
Yes, it's
Wars.
good. But when that,
Original.
Krista, you've seen it. When it first came out, that was groundbreaking. Like that was the most amazing thing ever. So
And now we have the Avatar and all that
Yeah,
kind of
I know.
stuff. Well, I wonder what happened if we would
Okay.
finally figure out how to go back in time and then we brought that movie. What would happen then?
oh, I don't know. They would be like,
Wait, are you talking about Avatar Last
Mind-blowing.
Airbender or Avatar
No,
People?
boy people.
Oh, I wish the Last Airbender because I like that so much better. But not the movie. The movie was dumb.
I think this is
I didn't like the
Show us-
Avatar.
show us
I didn't
that.
like Avatar either. I thought it was goofy. It was this.
Which avatar? There's two different avatars.
Two different avatars?
Yes.
there's
Yes?
Airbender,
Actually,
and
there's
then-
I didn't see it. I saw the blue people.
You didn't like that avatar?
No,
I
I didn't
can't
like
associate
it.
It was
with
too
you.
much like Dances with Wolves.
I've never seen. I've got that recorded. I'm gonna watch it. But anyways, we're getting off subject too much. But I did not like that movie though. It's too long. It's boring. So anyway, all right. So go ahead and turn to page 18.
Wow. Offended.
You're offended? Well, you offended me. You didn't like Star Wars or Duck Dynasty. I'm offended.
Duck Dynasty
It's stupid.
is just
Oh, Uncle Si.
dumb.
Uncle Si is so awesome.
They're famous because they invented a duck call.
He's Uncle Si. If you've ever watched Uncle Si is my hero. Like I want to be Uncle Si. That's my goal in life.
My goal is to be me.
Your goal is to be. Actually, that's a good goal. All right. So let's look at the top of this. The route to the Promised Land took the Israelites straight to the banks of the Red Sea. They weren't just stuck at the edge of the sea. There were also an army bearing down on them to take them captive and slay them once more. The Israelites forgot once again that God was on their side. They started to complain and panic when they saw the army approaching and no way out. So what does God tell Moses to do in verse 26?
Reach out.
As Moses, he
Do what? Reach out his hands, right? Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly,
Yeah.
okay. And then depart the Red Sea, good. And once the Israelites cross over, what does God do?
the water comes down and kills people.
Kills people. Which actually, and this is not completely confirmed, partly because you have a lot of hostile countries where the Red Sea's at today. There's some people who say that they found chariots and weapons and stuff on the bottom of the Red Sea from where they crossed. The problem is it's hard. These are Muslim countries, so they're obviously not going to want the Bible proved correctly. So it's hard to do like archaeology excavations and stuff like that
Is
to
it
find
guarded?
this stuff out. Do what?
Is that part guarded?
Well, but you got to get permission. I mean, it's the bottom of the Red Sea, so it's gonna be hard to like sneak out there without them being aware. But there's some guy that-
Couldn't you just like go in an airplane, fly over, and drop down?
You can just be a
And like a
poser
scuba
and then
suit?
come and then.
It would be. There's some guy that supposedly has pictures, but there's a lot of people who say he was crazy and it's not true. So I don't know, but
Like how they
Well-
found Noah's Ark.
well,
somewhere.
see, the same guy that said he's found Noah's Ark, the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, that's all.
He's
the same
found
people?
the same guy's found them all. So
Oh,
I'm a little
right.
skeptical,
Yeah.
but I believe they're down there. They're down there
You
somewhere.
say that.
But I don't know if this particular guy's and his photos are on the up and up. But they're down there somewhere. But I do find it interesting, and it would be cool to get down there and actually find them because, like I said, they are down there somewhere. All right.
Well, wouldn't the Ark would have floated away by now? She was in the water.
Well, it came resting up on top of a mountain, and then eventually it
Oh,
just
wow.
decayed and stuff like that too. Do you
Never
remember what the mountain was?
They said there was a video of it on
Oh,
YouTube.
I know what
The
you're
what?
talking about because
Yeah.
they found pieces of a boat.
Yeah, there's supposedly a mountain where they found pieces of like wood fragments
There
that are
was
about the same
some
time.
pictures, and there was a video on YouTube where they videotaped. It was just like this giant box split in half on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? Final third.
All right. Anyways, we're getting kind of running over, so we'll try to finish up in a hurry real quick. All right. So let's look at that next screen question. Now think about what that must have been like to witness. What words pop into your mind when you imagine all that took place?
Panic.
Panic. Initially, panic. Yeah.
Kind of stunned, just be like, what?
In awe.
Awe. Awe is a very good word for it. It's true. All right. Any other words?
Crazed.
Do what?
Crazed.
Crazed?
Yeah, you could be just like so in shock
Oh,
that you
dazed.
go crazy. No,
Oh,
not
or
dazed,
crazed. Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. So personally, we'll kind of wrap this up. Is there any other questions I've got listed up there?
Yep.
Okay, I'll put them up. All right. So how do you personally react when things get tough?
Depends what it is.
Yep.
Yep. That's all you got. That's all you can say. Nothing else.
Just depends what's getting tough.
Okay. All right. So why do you think we're quick to when bad things are happening though? Why do you think we're quick to complain and whine like the Israelites?
Because we're stubborn.
We're stubborn. Okay.
We want attention. Some people want attention.
Okay. That's very true a lot of times.
Yes.
It's standard.
Okay. Anything else? Alright, I think the big thing is we have a tendency also to forget what God's already done, which we talked about how we know God loves us and how He cares about us. And partly just how blessed we are, because we're living in this country, we're automatically better off than 98% of the rest of the world. So we're very blessed.
We're
And
one of the dumbest countries, though.
we are pretty dumb, but that's...
That's why
Actually-
I kinda don't like America.
Actually, one of the things I've realized, all people are that stupid. Like, people are just
Yeah.
stupid. They really are. I hate to be that way, but, like, there's a lot of countries in Europe and stuff. Like, do y'all know who Winston Churchill is?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. You know he was a real person, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
His name.
They did, like, a poll in Great Britain, like, a handful of years ago where, like, 30% of the population thought he was a fictional character or something crazy.
What?
It was, yes, and this is, like, he's their George Washington, basically.
What?
Or something,
And they thought
or
he was
Abraham
fake.
Lincoln. And it may not have been 30%, but there was a very large percentage that thought he was a fictional character.
Oh, wow.
So other countries are stupid too, okay? It's not just us.
That makes me feel better. We're not the
it's-
only stupid country.
It's an epidemic everywhere. Stupidity is an epidemic everywhere. What is,
Excuse me, we have nuclear bombs.
Actually, one of my
You
favorite
don't really
things-
hear about stupidity in New Zealand.
do what?
Or like, yeah.
Or like,
Actually, one of my favorite quotes, and this is from a comedian who's he's not a good person at all, but this is it's a guy by the name of George Carlin. He was an atheist. He was not a good guy. But he had a quote that said, think about how dumb the average person is, and remember that half the population is dumber than that.
Well, that's sad.
And I don't know, I always love that. So anyways, that's way off topic though, you distracted me. Alright, so my point is though, to wrap us up though, is a lot of times we're quick to complain and whine because we forget all the good things God's done for us. So we forget the fact that He sent His own Son, that He gave up His throne in heaven to come live for us. And so if we have a God that powerful, who loves us that much, when we're going through bad times, sometimes He's letting us go through that to help mold us into a better person, okay? And or to use us for something great like what Joseph happened. But the point is, we're going through those bad times, remember God cares about us, and He will deliver us, He will take care of us. It's just not always when we want it to. And sometimes as much as anything, it's just teaching us patience that we have to wait. We have to wait 10 seconds longer on the microwave for the popcorn to be done. Sometimes that's how life goes, so. Alright. Do you have any other questions or anything before we wrap up?